Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Crowd Share Podcast. Today we're going to be going over none other than Major League Baseball. Opening day is actually tonight. I'm recording this on Wednesday. So opening day is in fact tonight. And, well, we got some big game. We have a whole list of teams to actually go through. So let's not waste any time. We got baseball in 3 hours, starting at 8 with the Yankees and the Giants. So yeah, we don't have a ton of time to necessarily waste here. Let's just get right into it, and yeah, let's talk some baseball. It's a great time to be alive. Baseball season is right around the corner. It's a lot of fun when we get to have baseball yet again. But starting in the AL East, which I think arguably is quite possibly the toughest division in baseball. That might be not be by popular opinion, but you'll see why in a minute. And the first team we have on here is the Baltimore Orioles. Now, this team had a disappointing season a year ago. It did not go how they were hoping. Went 75 and 87. And that's after 2 years of having big time breakthroughs and making it to the playoffs. 2 years ago, of course, was definitely the peak where they had a 100 plus win season and were the number one overall seed in the American League, but this got spanked by the Texas Rangers, who'd eventually win the World Series that year. Um, and then last year, of course, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago, of course, lost the division to the Yankees, but then made it to the wild card round and then lost to the Royals. And then last year, of course, was disappointing. So this is a team that's been through a bit. But you also look at the Orioles, and they actually have some decent players. I mean, you got Trevor Rogers, Kyle Bradish, Shane Baz, Chris Bassett, Zach Eflin as the starting rotation. You got a couple decent, bullpen arms with guys like Andrew Kittredge, Ryan Helsley, and Felix Bautista once he gets back. You also have Yanir Cano, who has been in Baltimore before. He ended up leaving, I think, a couple years ago, but he ended up coming back. Or was it the other way around? Was it Bautista that left? One of them left. I don't remember which one. Maybe it was Bautista. I thought one of them got traded. Anyways, um, they've had some good years. So we'll just see how both of those guys play. But last year was just a lot of guys underperforming. Guys like Adley Rutschman were absolutely awful. So that really did not go according to plan for the Orioles. And so you bring in Polarberry being Pete Alonso. You got Taylor Ward as well. You got some decent hitters on this team. Taylor Ward being a big one with Pete Alonso. Jackson Holliday and Jordan Westberg, two decently big prospects, are both already injured. So that's not really encouraging if you're the Orioles to have both of those guys already hurt. But I think this will be a team that probably does decently. I mean, I'd say maybe they find their way, uh, you know, say at 500 or something. I mean, they were 75 and I think 87. Yeah, 75 and 87 last year. So let's say they wind up being like I don't know, 81 and 81 or something. I think 500 is realistic for them. I think I think they should hit 80 wins. The question is, can they make the playoffs? I just don't know about that. I'm not sure if they have enough, but I think this is at least an at or slightly above average team. I think is a fair, uh, you know, way to put the Baltimore Orioles. Next is the Boston Red Sox. Now, last year I was very adamant about me liking this team a lot, and I had reason to. This was a team that had young guys across good young guys across the board, a lot of young guys, a lot of good veterans, a lot of good a nice dose of good pitching, a nice dose of good veteran hitting as well. I mean, they were very well balanced. They were well balanced, well rounded. They had everything you would possibly want. And this year, I don't think is really that much different. I think the only difference that you really have in this team as opposed to last year is no Alex Bregman, and they have a lot better pitching. Uh, you're still going to be counting on Brian Bello to give you a lot more, but you also brought in Sonny Gray and Ranger Suarez. I like Ranger Suarez. I think that's a good pickup for him. We'll see what Sonny Gray gives him. Obviously, he's had his he's had some good years. He's had some not so good years. So, especially towards the end of his career here, obviously he's getting pretty up there in age. But this is a guy who still can really play. And if you get the best of Sonny Gray at, say at age 36, I mean, I would be happy. You also have Aroldis Chapman, who's still wielding it like a maniac. You got Garrett Whitlock, who can really play. Greg Weissert. They got, I think, way better pitching than they've had in recent years, which is what really held them back. And now I think the question is starting to turn towards the offensive end. But looking at their hitters, I still think they have more than enough hitting to really be just fine. Last year, like I said, I had this team as a dark horse World Series candidate. I don't know if I really have the same thing this year, but they were 89 and 73 last year. I think at least, at the very least, a repeat of that, or maybe even slightly better, is in the cards with Red Sox. I like this team. They're still very good. No Alex Bregman. These guys still can play. And then you got the New York Yankees up next. And, I mean, they're the Yankees. I don't really think I have to say all that much. I mean, we know these guys are nasty. You got, all kinds of great hitters. You got Paul Goldschmidt, Jazz Chisholm, Ryan McMahon, of course, is decent. Cody Bellinger and Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. Uh, Even Ben Rice and Austin Wells have been awful. So I mean, you got all kinds of great hitting. You got a good closer in David Bednar. You got Camilo Doval in the bullpen, along with Fernando Cruz, who isn't even that terrible necessarily. No, I don't know about that. But you got Camilo Doval and David Bednar. That's your 1-2. That's pretty nice to have. And then you got some fill-in pieces around that. You have a big three of starting pitchers: Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon. Cole and Rodon will be out for a good portion to start the year, but we'll see when those guys get back. Obviously, like I said, they're the Yankees. You know they're going to be good. You know they're going to produce. The question is, will it all come to fruition? I think it's entirely possible. 94 and 68 last year. Was just shy of winning the division last year. Lost it due to a tiebreaker to who we're going to talk about next. But this is a very good baseball team. They always are. They always have loads of talent, and this is a matter of, will it produce? Will it, like I said, will it come together? We had it 2 years ago where it certainly did, and they made it to the World Series. But then you had last year where it flamed out and they lost again, and they lost to the Blue Jays, who we're going to talk about next. But like this team, like the Yankees, they're always going to be a contender. They always are going to have great players. It's just a matter of, again, would actually come all together. Next is the Toronto Blue Jays, team who made it to the World Series just last year. What a surprise. I don't really think anyone expected the Blue Jays to suddenly come out of nowhere after what had been several really disappointing years and just not great baseball. I'm sorry, what would have been some disappointing years, and especially 2 years ago, of where they were well below 500 and were honestly pretty bad. So I don't think anyone really saw that coming. But to many people's surprise, they had quite the breakout season, went 94-68, beat out the Yankees for the division, and like I said, made a run to the World Series, fell a game short to, no surprise, the LA Dodgers. That's who the Yankees lost to, actually. The year before, that's who the Yankees lost to. Actually, the year before, I believe. Yeah. That's who the Yankees lost to the year before. Dodgers beat both of them. Although the Yankees didn't really put up that much of competition. Anyways, um, Blue Jays are a very good team. You go back to who they had last year, it's really not that much difference. Mostly the same guys. There's a couple newbies in town, like Dylan Cease is obviously the biggest new addition, but really other than that, there's not necessarily another big like whoa, that's another big whoa, except for I'm gonna try and say this right, uh, Kazuma Okamoto. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's a big pitch. Sorry, it's a big Japan prospect. replacing what was their big time shortstop actually. In Bo Bichette. He is moving on to the New York Mets. So they brought in Okamoto to replace him. Again, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I really hope I am. But bringing him in to replace Bo Bichette. We'll see how he does. Obviously, coming from Japan, certainly not Bo Bichette, but who knows? Maybe he'll translate from Japan and be just as good. Um, Obviously, it'll be a different look for him, but I definitely don't mind the signing for the Blue Jays. And like I said, other than that, really the team is mostly the same, so not that much different. Um, and so yeah, looking at the team, looking at what we have here, the Blue Jays making another run to the World Series, I don't think is entirely out of the question. I think really um, they should at least make the playoffs, but I wouldn't be shocked if they made a run to the World Series once again. And then we have the Tampa Bay Rays, who were 77 and 85 just last year. Similar to the Orioles, it seems like this Tampa team kind of reached its peak back in 2020 when they went to the World Series and they lost to, guess who? The Dodgers. I feel like the AL East should have a vendetta against them at this point with just how many times they beat them. I mean, the only team that really hasn't lost, that hadn't lost them actually is Boston, so I guess they don't really care. But here are three teams. Uh, man, they've had quite the issues with that team over in LA. Anyways, since that year, it feels like the Rays have just kind of been going further and further downward. They had a 100 win season that gave them the division and then got ousted by the Red Sox early in a big time upset. Then they had a 99 win season, which ended up falling short of the Baltimore Orioles, who won the division, and then they got ousted also by the Texas Rangers, who would go on to win the World Series again that year. And then there's this again. It continues to go downhill. Next year they went 80 and 82, I believe, and then this year 77 and 85. And I don't know if it's going to be that much better this year. They brought in some guys, so I mean, I think it's possible that this team has another, middle of the road season. I would almost say that this team is like the Pittsburgh Steelers of baseball, but it's kind of like hard to really make that. Comparisons, especially because the Rays have just only gotten worse and have actually been dipping below 500, something the Steelers have like never done. I mean, you can make the comparison that the Yankees or the Dallas Cowboys haven't won anything in forever either, but anyways, I just think the Rays. I mean, you got a couple good players on here. You got Junior Caminero. Jonathan Miranda could be good, maybe. I mean, you got Cedric Mullins, maybe he produces. Yandy Diaz can play. To me, there's a couple good guys on here, but there's not enough for me to really get excited about them and be like, yeah, this is gonna be really a good team. I don't know if there really is that. Again, they should be a solid baseball team. Certainly won't be chump change, but I don't know if this is a team that's going to, you know, uh, make headlines and blow people's minds or anything. I just don't think that's really going to happen. Um, and then next we have the AL Central here, maybe the worst division in baseball. And we have the Chicago White Sox up first. This is a team that just 2 years ago, actually set the record for the worst record in Major League Baseball history, going a whopping 41 and 121. Yeah, I didn't know teams could reach that low of a low, but apparently they can. Last year, a little less bad. I mean, 60 and 102, still not good, but I mean, considering where they were, that's certainly improvement. This is still not a good team, though. I mean, they brought in a couple guys. I mean, you got again another Japan prospect, so forgive me. This one's a little harder than Mr. Okamoto. I think is Okamoto. I could be saying that totally wrong. This one, I guarantee you, I am really saying wrong. Munetaka Murakami. Still don't know if that's right either. Hopefully it is. But you got him coming in to play at first. You got Colson Montgomery, Miguel Vargas, Mydroth. You got the younger Acuna, who will be over there, Austin Hayes. I mean, like I said, they've signed a couple guys. Maybe they'll be a little less bad, but I mean, I don't know. This is a team that really is not going anywhere. The stadium situation is also is also very poor, similar to the Rays. That stadium situation is really a joke. They do have the roof on though for the Rays, so they got that. But White Sox Stadium is also not special, and it's just not good vibes with the White Sox. Not a good time to be a White Sox fan. Um, another 100 loss season could be in the cards for Chicago. They're just not a good team. And like I said, they're less bad than they were 2 years ago, but doesn't mean they're not bad. Next we have Cleveland. We have Cleveland, who ended up winning the division last year, thanks to the demise of the team below them. We'll get to them in a minute. Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute. We'll get to my team in a minute. But Cleveland has got themselves a similar team to last year, went 88-74 to win the division. They have their ace and Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams, top of their starting rotation. Hunter Gaddis and Cade Smith lead the bullpen, obviously, and Tim Herron as well. Obviously, no Manuel Clase with that whole mess. Don't think he'll ever see the field ever again. Bum, idiot. Uh, we won't go into that, but yeah, he's not a smart human being. Then you got Bo Naylor as the catcher. Guys like Kyle Manzardo, Brian Rocchio, obviously Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan are the big ones. You also got Chase DeLauder, the number one overall pick in 2024, who'll be starting off the year for Cleveland. So that will be a big time name to watch for Cleveland going into this season to see if that can produce some more offense for them. That was a big problem for them last year. With that being possibly their biggest struggle was hitting. As really a lot of times it seems to be Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, and nobody else. So we'll see how it goes for Cleveland. This will be a team that I think will certainly make a push for the AL Central. I don't think they're going to just lie flat. I don't think this team is great. But I also don't think this team is bad. I think this is a team that's kind of just somewhere in the middle. Maybe like 85 wins or something. They're gonna push whoever wins this division, which I think is really between two teams. they'll push. But I think it's the team below them more than likely. I think they'll push them, but whether they win or not, well, we'll see. And speaking of that team below them, we have the Detroit Tigers. Last year was 87-75, went back to the playoffs, had a miserable collapse in the divisional series. Couldn't get a run in that darn game 5. Yes, I'm still mad about that. But they made quite the moves in free agency, at least quite the moves in pitching, because they got both Framber Valdez and Justin Verlander to if Justin Verlander. Sorry, they got both Framber Valdez and Justin Verlander to come into the starting rotation, with already having Tariq Skubal, Jack Flaherty, and Casey Mize. Very good starting rotation. Then they brought back Kyle Finnegan, already have Will Vest, have Tyler Holton, Brant Herter, and then, of course, their closer is now going to be Kenley Jansen. Going to be a lot of additions there. A lot of guys they also retaining. Tigers certainly went out and really worked on the pitching side of things to make that um, as good as it humanly possibly could be, which is very interesting to me. We'll see how that goes. Because really, I think their biggest problem last year, as we talked about that Seattle Mariners series, was they couldn't hit the ball. So I don't know how getting a bunch of pitching is really going to fix that, but sure, I guess. But the Tigers, I mean, they have some solid hitters. They are actually, much to I think a lot of people's surprise, considering that he has yet to ever play in AAA ball. Is Kevin McGonigal is actually going to be on the opening day roster. I don't know how to really feel about that, especially when the guy hasn't played AAA at all. And even spring training is not even in Double A. It wasn't like he was doing that great. He was hitting 250. I mean, his on base I think was great in spring training, which I mean, I guess that technically is AAA. But even in spring training, I mean, it was kind of similar, like 250. I mean, his on base percentage was 411, which honestly is very good. I mean, he had way more walks than he did strikeouts, but did you really need him this early? I mean, I get it. You want to have him, you want to bring him in, but I mean, I don't know. That kind of rubs me the wrong way. Anyways, I think this will be a team that certainly will make its move. This is, to me, kind of just the Tigers' way of going all in, even though they're really just not hardly doing anything to address their biggest need. But I do think this is a Tiger team that definitely will have a solid year. They'll be in the playoffs again, more than likely. It doesn't matter whether they'll win the division or not this time and not absolutely blow it. Um, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's entirely possible. Like I said, they definitely worked on the pitching and brought in quite a few guys, but hitting is still going to be a bit of a issue for us, and we'll see how that goes. But um, we'll see. Like the Tigers, though, should be in the will be in the should be in the playoff mix once again. Kansas City Royals, 82 and 80 a season ago. This team had a major problem when it came to hitting. They had, I think they actually had one of the lowest number of runs scored against, as their pitching staff was one of the best in Major League Baseball. In fact, I think they might have had the least amount of runs scored against, but they also had the least amount of runs scored. They couldn't hit worth a lick. They could pitch and they shut opponents down, but they just could not score themselves. They had absolutely horrendous offense, which is really what held them back. And you really get some hitting onto that team, and well, watch out. And they have certainly a nice group of three. Sally Perez is certainly starting to age a little bit, but still a good player. And you also have Vinny Pascantino and Bobby Witt Jr., of course. And really, other than that, it's pray for rain. There's not really much else to look at if you're a KC Royals fan. You got Jack Caglione, who obviously everybody's hoping will kind of pick it up. That was KC's big time draft pick from Florida. Hasn't really panned out as of yet. But hey, he's only, I think, like, what, 23 years old, maybe 24. Long way, yeah, 23 years old, obviously. Plenty of time for him to turn things around and really flip everything on its head and look like the player that the Royals were hoping him to be. So, Royals are a team that if they get some offensive production, that pitching staff continues to dominate like they did last year, they might be a tough out. Because if KC starts scoring runs, that pitching staff, if they do what they did last year, I don't know if there's really anyone that can beat them. But that offense has to put up runs. You're not going to win games. You can't score runs. And then you got the Minnesota Twins, who went 70 and 92 last year. 2 years ago, they had similar to Tigers, a playoff collapse. Although they're the ones that missed the playoffs, we at least still made it. Uh, the Twins completely missed the playoffs, and then the next year completely caved even more. And this is a team that basically just sold everybody. They traded every single person known to man. They dumped absolutely everybody that was basically any good. And this is a team that, other than Byron Buxton, is pretty. I'm sorry, Byron Buxton and Joe Ryan is really pretty barren. There's not really much at Minnesota anymore. I think this is a team that will probably be competing with the White Sox for last in this division. This is another really just bad team. There's not really many good players there. Like I said, they just kind of dumped everybody. We'll see if they can really pick it up, but I don't know. I don't know. I think it's going to be a tall order for them. And then next we go to the AL West, and we start with the LA Angels. This is a bad team, guys. I don't know. I don't really have any other way of playing it. Last year when I went over the LA Angels, who by the way went 72-90 last year. When I went over this LA Angel team, I called them the LA Has-Beens. Yeah, they're still the LA Has-Beens. They basically just went ahead and signed a bunch of guys that are well past their prime again. So this team is really not that much different than they were a season ago. So yeah, this is still the LA Has-Beens. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost 100 games this year. They're bad. They're a very bad team. And then there's the Athletics, wherever they hail from. I don't know. They're just calling themselves the Athletics right now because they don't really have a city. The Athletics, some Sacramento or Oakland or Vegas or wherever. This is a team that was kind of the opposite of of the of the Royals from this past season. Because their issue, they could score. I mean, they were right there with the Tigers, actually, in fact, for runs scored, and weren't that far off from some other teams that they were well ahead of Cleveland, who was a playoff team. They weren't far behind the Seattle Mariners, and like they scored runs. They can hit, and they have a lot of those hitters once again this year. They finished 76 and 86 last year. um, the A's problem, which was last year, and will seemingly be their problem again this year, was pitching. They had zero pitching that did any favors from them last year. They gave up over 800 runs last year. So they had to get in a lot of shootouts to win games, and that's a tall order to ask your offense to consistently score like that many runs that many times. That's a lot to be asking of them, and I'm not sure you're really gonna get that. So we'll see, but and I didn't really do much, to really improve that pitching staff. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but not much improvement for the A's. Not much new guys coming in, but they still got the hitting, and well, maybe in another year the pitching can improve again. Then you got the Seattle Mariners. Now this is a team I think is going to be. I think them and the Blue Jays are on a collision course possibly for another ALCS with how talented they both are. I don't know if the Blue Jays will get there again, but Seattle, I think, certainly will, and certainly can, and certainly will. I mean, just look at the starting pitching rotation. We'll just start there. I mean, that's what's obviously the biggest part of their team is the insane amount of pitching that they have. But just to go off the pitching side of things, their starting rotation is Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Brian Wu, Luis Castillo, and Bryce Miller. You could argue that all those guys, minus Bryce Miller, you could argue that all those guys are all-star caliber pitchers, and that's not including the bullpen side of things, which you got Matt Brash, Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo, and then of course your closer Andres Munoz. Absolutely disgusting pitching staff. You're not scoring on these guys. Your hope is going to be like the Tigers tried to do last year, is to hold them to little runs. They got kind of this. Last year they had a big five. This year it's going to be a big four. But last year they had a big five of Randy Arozarena, Cal Raleigh, Josh Naylor. Well, I don't know where Josh Naylor was hitting, but they kind of had a big five last year of Randy Arozarena, Cal Raleigh, uh, Julio Rodriguez, Eugenio Suarez, and then Josh Naylor. This year it'll be the same guys, just no Eugenio Suarez. Now they'll have Brendan Donovan from the St. Louis Cardinals. And there's also a chance that you see a big time prospect, a shortstop. I forget his names, like Colt Emerson maybe or something like that. I don't remember. But big time prospect, top 10 prospect. So we'll see if he can come up for them. Mariners are one of the best teams in the American League. I don't think there's any question about it. I think this will be a team that could realistically make a push for the World Series. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But I think this is a Mariners team that's just way too talented. Barring obviously health issues, I think this is a Mariners team that might just beat everyone in the American League. Just preface it like that, in the American League. And then next we have the Texas Rangers, who are smack dab at 500 a season ago at 81 and 81. This is a team that, similar to the Royals, was lethal when it came to pitching. And heck, they were even more lethal than the Royals when it came to pitching. As they gave up almost under 600 runs last year. They only scored 684. This is a team that kind of lacked a little bit of that hitting punch, but that pitching staff is not much different than it was last year. Again, I mean, they got Jake DeGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, and Mackenzie Gore now as their top three, with young hopefuls and Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker in behind. I'm sure you know those names. You got a decent, bullpen as well. And then you got the hitters who are kind of all over the place. I mean, you got still Wyatt Langford, Corey Seager, Josh Young, Josh Smith. But really, it's going to be all about the hitting here. Andrew McCutchen is also on this team, possibly as a DH, I guess. This is a team. It's going to be all about offense for the Rangers, similar to the Royals. It's going to be about hitting. Can they hit? Can they score runs? If they can score runs, they might beat anybody in a stinking game. If they don't score runs, well, good luck to you. I think that's really the best way of playing the Rangers. They get runs on the board. Yeah, I think you're going to have a tough time beating Texas. If they don't, though, well, they might not be as hard to beat as you would think. And then next we have the Houston Astros last at 87 and 75. Actually missed the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. This is a team that has kind of been trying to innovate. It has been kind of going a little downhill for Houston for a couple years now. It seems like similar to a lot of teams I've mentioned earlier in this video, they kind of it seems like they reached their peak early, like a couple years, like several years ago, and it's just kind of been, falling apart since. I mean, I think their last championship was against the Phillies in 2022, because then the Rangers won it, then Dodgers. So I mean, yeah, that was their last championship, and it's not like that was a long time ago or something, but you know, they've only lost guys since then. There's no Kyle Tucker. There's no who's the first baseman that they had that was really good. I'm for whatever reason I'm blanking out on his. Oh, well, I mean they lost Alex Bregman. A lot of these guys that won the championship with them are just not really there anymore. And so, there's a lot to be asking for Houston when they just don't really have the same guys that got them to those World Series that they used to have. They're not there anymore. I mean, yeah, you can say, well, they're just going to, reinvent and get some new guys in. Well, yeah, they tried that last year and look where it got them. So we'll see. I think this will be another team that maybe fights for a wild card spot, but I think this division has kind of just become Seattle's lose. And it's the two Texas teams chasing them, with the A's trying to find offense, and the Angels just, well, there. That's what I have for Houston. That's all I got for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And, I hope you enjoy our first game of the season between the Yankees and the Giants. But that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Until then, adios, everybody.